curious to see if the audio is any different. I'll be curious to see how this sounds compared to the other way around. Because I've got I can see if I can lift it up so you can see it. It's the green setting instead of the blue setting, which I believe is room sound versus the more isolated sound option that this microphone offers. So I'm very curious to see if that affects it any. There we go. I do need to see if I can maybe fix this or replace it. I've been debating. This is a part of me like this works pretty good for what I use it for right now. I want to replace the torn out patch that got scratched up and ruined. And I want to seal the seam a little bit better. But there's a possibility that this is a window that I have covered up with some insulation. Actually, do I have a piece of that insulation? Yes, I do. So this is actually insulation that came in a package of food. I get a box of delivered food that needs to be refrigerated, and so it comes with these insulation packets, and they're basically filled with like whipped cornstarch or something like that. That's set up, and this is a reasonably good insulation material for temperature as well as for sound and light. And so I have all of that lining this big sort of side opening window, which was just a heat suck and a light pollution source. And then I papered over it with, I have a roll of, I used to go to, what is it, Science Plus? American Science and Surplus. Science, I haven't been there in a while. And Surplus. And I went there probably 20 or 30, no, it can't be 30 years ago. 20 some odd years ago, and found they had this offer for this roll of unusual paper, which is sort of a bright fluorescent pinkish color. I know it comes across as orange here. Some of that is to do with the room lighting, which has a yellowish tone. And some of it's just like the camera doesn't pick up colors in the same way. Like I could show you, okay, this is red. This is white, yellow, and orange. That shows up way better. Like when I look at this in my eyes, the yellow and the white look very similar in this room. So the colors you're seeing off of here are not true to the colors that I see by eye in here. But at any rate, this stuff is sort of a bright fluorescent pink. And it's sort of more similar to what you can kind of see up in the corners here. I mean, right behind me, it looks a lot more orangey. But it's not wide enough. Like basically, I ran strips, and I can make it as long as I need it to be, but it's not wide enough to cover the window either vertically or horizontally. So I have to do 2 rows of it. But if I do 2 rows of it, it's too wide because there's a windowsill right down here on the lower part that would make a bump if I tried to paper over it. But what I'm thinking about is this color works fairly good for some things. Like my face and maybe a few other things. As long as I don't have to hold anything up in front of the camera, it works okay if I'm lighting it correctly. We have seen occasionally in the past where if I have a side light on, the shadow it casts on the side of my face will pick up a slightly red tone to it, which makes the chroma keying cut it out. So I get these little disappearing patches on my face if I'm lit differently. But this works decently. I already had the stuff to do it. I don't need to spend any extra money for it. But because this is a window, there's a curtain rod, but there are two curtain rods. One is a longer one that carries these guys, which I might replace with something else. But there's another one that's a little shorter and just beneath it, at the same distance from the wall, though. And I'm thinking if I relocate that second one, which was like a for holding up a lace like under curtain or whatever the heck it is, if I relocate that curtain rod to the bottom of the window, because they're sticking out the same distance from the wall, I might be able to make a green screen material that I can stretch more, almost the full length of the wall between the two curtain rods, and make a green one or a blue one to do that. I mean, I might even, it's getting a little ambitious. I was going to say, I might even be able to do multiple roll down backdrops, but that's a little too much. Just stretching a piece of green between the top and the bottom of the floor, if I get this setup, this rig that I'm working on set up to be a little more mobile, and can put the webcam on a tripod, set it up at the right spot, I could get my whole upper torso at least, and possibly my whole body on green screen. And then I could do some other interesting projects with it. I've also been thinking, like, literally, again, it's a small room, but I've got my computer here, my other computer here. There's something right here off to this side. This is my bed. That's my dresser over there, over behind here. There's enough room to walk through the middle. But I'm thinking I have a folding table that I might be able to lay out and do top-down shots with if I can move this a little bit out of the way to take the opportunity to use the space. But the biggest problem I have with that is the reach of the webcam probably would make that harder to do unless I have my laptop up and running again, so that I can use that to record through OBS the top-down video. So I'm thinking about some of that. But tonight's video for Roving Jack is probably going to go up pretty late, and I was supposed to do another review today for this channel, but after I finished and was exporting the video last night for Roving Jack, I got a phone call saying that we were doing a run-through of the building for insulation estimates, and that everything had to be cleaned and organized in multiple rooms around, like, because I help manage the property a little bit. It's part of the deal and parcel of being here. But getting a message at 7 p.m. last night saying, hey, everything has to be fixed up and, spick and span for tomorrow 6 p.m. when I had to get 8 hours of sleep, which I didn't get, and go do a shift at work, and then get back here just in time to meet up with them for this process. It means I got none of the other extra work that I needed to get done last night done. and it means that I had no time to do anything today until probably after 8 p.m. And so I've been kind of working on some of that stuff. And it's just sort of like, cool. So again, somebody else has found a better use for my time than what I had it set up for. And I was like, cool. Thanks for running that by me before you did that to me. But it is what it is. I will survive. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened. But it does mean that things got rescheduled. Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those. It's like a spring wire with a stretchy piece of. Is that one of those things? Yeah, it's like a spandex green screen on a stretchy wire or a spring wire, something like that. I've seen stuff like that before. I mean, it wouldn't be super hard to get something like that, and it wouldn't be super expensive, but that's not the point. Yeah, the simplest way you can do it is if you can go to like this isn't a color that's oftentimes used for green screen, partly because, and we've seen it through the Christmas holiday stuff, where so many things have red in them. Even skin tone can have a little bit of a pinky tone to it, and if you're not careful, it can trip it off. I did a taste test recently where I did a taste test of some ice cream, and the camera, like, it was a bright blue ice cream. There wasn't any real like red or pinky tones to it, but as I held the color of the ice cream up to the camera, it adjusted to looking at the ice cream, and then when I pulled it away, it was reading my face as similar enough to the backdrop that it really just had the darker highlights. It looked like if you were to take a black and white image, not like a grayscale image, but full on, like if you were to try to take a picture of something in black and white and really just those two tones and use it to make a stencil, that it looked like somebody had taken a stencil of my facial features and just done that on the green screen. It took a second for it to get back into color. I had a few of the taste tests I did. I think it was like the stupid the Elf on a Shelf cereal had a pinky tone to it, and there were periods of taste testing that where I took a spoonful up to my face, and it would show the image I had on the backdrop through as if like a moving hole had crossed in front of my face. And I was like, there are things I could do with that. That could be very, very fun. And honestly, I have such a massive roll of this stuff that I can cut out shapes if I want to make special effects where this is the green screen and then whatever's on the front of the screen, if I want to punch a hole straight through it, I just need to tape a little bit of that stuff over top of it and it'd cut it right out. And I've thought about doing that for some of the animation stuff if I wanted to do something where I use this green screen in the background and then did like, it's not green screen, this chroma key in the background, and then had an object that I wanted to, like, say, an eggshell or something like that, hold it up to this screen and like make it look like there's a tunnel into another dimension through it. Like, you could totally use that for special effects. But I mean, at the same time, you could probably, I know you can layer chroma key in OBS. So I could, with this color background and the fluorescent green poster board and a bright fluorescent blue poster board, if I could find something like that, I can make different layers show through. So like in chroma keying, I can set this up so that it displays a scene in the background. And then I can set the chroma key up so that there's another image in the background, or even a movie playing in the background, that if I move the green piece around, it'll cut out a piece of exactly that shape of whatever is happening in that second background. So I can make it look like, I could make a huge background of crackling lightning. And if I hold up a piece of green poster board and just do this, it looks like moving pieces of lightning in that section as it moves around me. That would be fun to do stuff like that with. So I could play with some of that for special effects and stuff too, but trying to keep it simple, low budget. I can get a fluorescent green poster board from the Dollar Tree for $1. Actually, I think it's 69 cents for that one. I do think there's a more orange and not quite, or maybe more pink. I can't remember. There's one that's a bright, like eye-hurting color. That's not quite the same color as this, and I wonder how these two would work together. I'm also curious if you could do something with a bright yellow. He's probably done something with that. There's another guy that I sometimes check out. I'm trying to remember which channel I watch him on, because I've got my 2 YouTube channels. I have a watching list that's different for each of them. He's a New Zealander who's living in, I think, Brazil. There we go. Philip Stevens 007. So it's PHILIP, capital S, it's capital P at the start, capital STEPHENS 007. All one word, no spaces. And his YouTube channel was one of the first ones I found that had some really good discussion of green screening, model making, and he does a lot of tinkering stuff too. He's made a few. He made one of the ones that I think would be fun to do a version of for my channel was he made a scroll saw that is basically, he made a wheel that he screwed to one of the legs of his workbench and ran a strip of cloth or something over that to another part that moved up and down on a lever that was anchored a little away from the point where the pulley was, and so it would cause it to move at that point, and then connected that to a back half of a top piece and an axis in the middle, and ran a blade between the front halves, and ended up with a scroll saw that he could use to cut things. And he put a piece of wood with an eye bolt anchored to a part of the big wheel so that you'd step down and it would spin the wheel. And he made a simple scroll saw from scrap wood and used it to cut things. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. So he's got some good stuff on his channel. And he has done some green screening stuff, some editing. He does a puppet show. I think he was making a series of Lord of the Rings spoofs where he made the green screens and he made his own costumes and stuff, and half the characters were puppets interacting with him in costume. It was just it's fun. It's interesting. He's an interesting character. He doesn't upload a lot anymore, I don't think, but what he does upload is usually pretty interesting. So my time's a little tight this week because I'm trying to recoup from having to clean up and organize and straighten up and prepare this whole place for this thing today. So it was literally 6 or 7 hours worth of work that I had planned to use towards other things like editing video and getting stuff up in time. I haven't uploaded to my Opportunity Forge because that's just backburnered until I can get myself back onto a functional schedule again. But it is what it is. Those are the things that happen. It's part of the drama of doing as much as I'm doing for as many people as I'm doing them for right now. But I'm hoping over the next day or two, I get back onto the schedule of the uploads for the Roving Jack channel, get the Opportunity Forge first video shot and posted. And then I need to get the reviews for this channel up and running. I got the first taste test up. I'm supposed to review a book, a movie, and at least a board game, and possibly a video game or art and music at some point. I think I got some art stuff still left from my trip across country that I can start posting those again. So I think that's probably where that's going to end up going. The animation challenge I haven't gotten a lot done with yet. I keep going back and forth. Like, I know the goal is a 5-minute short, and I might go for that, but I'm okay. Yeah, so like 1 square foot to work on. Yeah, that's sort of the one of the issues I'm facing right now too. Is space is a premium. I've got a little space to play with right now, but not a lot. And I'm thinking about the possibility of that fold-up table being able to be popped right over top of my bed. So it's a fold-up table so that the top folds in half, and then legs pull down, and it can be set up. But I don't have to put the legs down if I can put the tabletop right over a made bed and use it to work on, and then fold it up and put it against the wall as something that's maybe that thick. I mean, it's big enough, but it's not super thick, so I can put it up against a wall behind the door when I'm not using it. It might give me a work surface that I can set up for doing top-down video. So I may play with that. But yeah, so some things to play with and try to get organized in the next few weeks to months. I feel like it's probably going to creep into the months as these projects keep getting sidetracked by other people. But like I said, I'm seriously debating when would be the time to leave the job I'm at right now and just devote myself full time to my projects. But for right now, the animation project that I'm working on, the gags from working retail, where I do the banter and the jokes that I tell the customers that come through, none of them individually are 5 minutes long, but I could do a few of them together. I might just do one of those right now, because I was joking around with somebody earlier that I eat eggs in large numbers. So I get cartons of eggs, so 60 eggs per carton, and there are 2 flats within a carton, so a flat is 30 eggs. But the flat has this sort of like the sockets for eggs laid out in essentially a grid. And I was joking because my friend was making a post online about the way you keep eggs in the egg carton in the refrigerator tells you what kind of person you are. And so he's got the standard 12 egg carton design showing like you're crazy if you do this, you're a sociopath, you're OCD if you do this, you're all these different things saying like the way you arrange your egg, like when you have like 5 or 6 eggs left in a carton, how you arrange them in the carton tells them something about you. It was just a joke mainly, but like the fact that mine is a grid that's 15, but what is it? No, 30. So it's 30 spots on the whole thing. And I said, I'm pretty sure I could set this up and make Tetris out of this. And then I got to thinking like a stop motion Tetris skit. So I could set up, like I have a bunch of these flat carton pieces that I can make paper mache out of and use for other projects. But I could also lay them down and make a grid to do Tetris with. And then I have these, which are blown out eggshells that I could move up and down that grid and move them in the shape of Tetris pieces. And I have, I eat enough eggs that I could take a few other shells and make the Tetris pieces out of. I think there's four squares per Tetris piece. So if I made 4 egg shapes, and then do an animation where they're moving down the board, and when they get to the end and they fill in a whole section, where it blinks and disappears. Instead, what I could do is I could do some combination of crushing a few eggs and shattering the eggshells around and scrambled eggs. I could cook up some scrambled eggs and just lay them across that. So it looks like the eggs just, and then wipe them off, have some teeth come through and eat up the eggs, and then back to the Tetris animation stuff. Or I could do something like I could get some Dollar Tree dinosaurs or something like that, and the eggs, dinosaurs eat all the other eggs as they go through and walk off screen. I could do some silly things like that. So it would be fun to just see if I could play around with that a little bit. And I could do some of the jokes I give customers at the retail position. And so that would be stop motion, more traditional animation. I could do some pixel art animation, like I was talking about before, like video game character stuff. And then I feel like there's another one that I could do. And I don't think any of them would be necessarily 5 minutes long, but they would cumulatively equal 5 minutes of animation. So I could probably play around with some of that. And that's the thing that was on my mind for this project for the animation right now. Like, it's hard for me to say, like, yeah, I'm going to sit down and commit to making a full 5-minute animation of one kind when most of my ideas would be shorter works. I do have an idea for a longer one, but it would be much longer than 5 minutes, and it would be minimal animation, and it would take a lot of time to do. But I could give it a try. Yeah, I could play with that. That one is similar to what I think I was talking about before with the ending credits for Thor Ragnarok, where it looks like basically cutouts, like silhouettes, done in layers. So like a front frame layer, a back background layer and the middle ground action layer. And the front and back are mostly stationary, except for when you're shifting frames to a different scene. And you slide in on those new scenes, there's a little bit of parallax between them to give an illusion of depth to the scene. And then the middle scene oftentimes is mostly stationary with some minor motion effects. And I kind of think that would be fun to do for an opening narration to my game design that I was working on for what did I used to call it? The Multitude of Realms? No. I can't even remember what I used to call it. That's my brain fried on COVID. Like, literally, this is a project we just spent the last year working on. For the first third of that year, I called it something. And I can't remember what the hell I used to call it. That's disappointing. I don't like that happens. It worries me a little bit. But as it is, I could probably do the opening animation ideas I have for that to set up the history of the world. And what I'd like to do, like opening sequence, would be front frame and then everything behind it empty, and then have these sort of a tear form in the background. And from that tear would be the origins of the universe and the introduction of the first mothers and the subsequent conflicts and rise of the peoples of the setting. And that intro of the creation of the world through the tear in the fabric of reality, the war against chaos of the six first mothers, and then the birthing of the first people, and the first people forming armies to fight against chaos, and then the sort of disappearance of the first mothers, and the sort of conflict between the peoples of the realm. Empyrean Realm, I think, was what I started out with. There we go. So I could do that, and I could do that as a series of 8 to 10 still shots. And one of the early ones, I'm not sure if it would be the early one or the later one, would be a map of the setting. And I feel like that would be doable. I just think that even simplifying it to pseudo still frame images, sort of like a slideshow, but with minor amounts of motion introduced into the slideshow. I feel like that would be doable, but also more difficult than it seems at first. So I may, like, if I can get what I need to get done for some of the other simpler ones and have time left over to play around with the design for the more complex one, I will do that. But for now, I need to focus on getting what I can done out of the goal. Alrighty, so we're about 35 minutes in. I think I need to call it, go make some dinner, get to some video editing over here, and see if I can get myself into a place where I'm not going to fall behind again. And I will catch you back here on Sunday, I think. Yep. Today is, in fact, Thursday. Well, today's Friday now, but it is, in fact, the Thursday upload for live streaming. So Sunday is the next one. But for now, hope you're doing well. Take care. Have a good night, and I will see you back here on Sunday. Nice to be able to talk with you again. I can't believe YouTube kicked that little button and caused so much trouble for a little while. All right. Catch you later.